So it's the best video of the month. It is my August tarot TBR, and I'm so excited because August is the last month before I go back to university after a year-long hiatus. For this TBR in particular, I really wanted to pick books that I'm just like genuinely excited to read, that I might not have time to read once school comes around, because like, let's be real, there's no way I will be able to keep up with the reading pace that I have currently once I'm in school. It's just not gonna happen. That is okay, but we are using this month as an excuse to read some good things. I've also inputted my Goddess Power Oracle deck again. You guys all seemed to enjoy that last month, and so did I. So she is making an appearance later on in the video as before, and I am so ready to talk about all of these cool and lovely worldly folklore stories. So let's bring on the books. While Past Bella is shuffling up her cards, I'll go over the rules really quickly. 1 card equals 1 book. If 2 of the same number in the minor arcana are pulled, I pull an extra card, which equals an extra book. And that's kind of it. I've got all the prompts linked down below in the Google Doc. Pull as many cards as you feel like pulling if you want to join in on this fun game. That's really all there is to it. The first card that I pulled, we're gonna start off with a bang. This is the Ace of Cups. What is represented here is Matsuo sake, which is a Japanese myth about the creation of sake. Matsuo-sama is the main patron god of brewing sake specifically. So every year during Kami-Arizuki, or the month of the gods, all of the Japanese gods would gather at the Izumi Oyashiro shrine, where they would discuss like important things. But my brain immediately went to like what I expect should happen at the G7 summits. Politics. But one year, the god Matsuo really wanted to impress all of his fellow godly buds. So he went to Arashiyama, who is the god of rice, asked to use some, and then he went to Kyoto, the god of water, and asked for some of their purest spring water. Matsuo put the rice and the water together to brew the very first sake, which he then brought as an offering to the other gods at their monthly meeting. All of them loved the drink so much that sake became the drink of the gods and is considered to be a blessing bestowed upon humans by the gods. The card, the Ace of Cups, this is about love and new relationships and creativity. It symbolizes like your heart overflowing, like a cup overflowing. So my prompt for Ace cards is a new author, and my prompt for Cups cards is something emotional or sad. I know this is all like a very positive card, but the book that I picked for this is They Drown Our Daughters by Katrina Monroe. This is a gothic horror about mermaids. Guys. So we are following Meredith Strand and her daughter. Meredith has just had a pretty bad breakup with her wife, and so her and her daughter are returning to their hometown. I'll let my cat finish going to the bathroom. Meredith and her daughter are returning to their hometown of Cape Disappointment, real subtle, which is rumored to be haunted. They have returned to stay with Meredith's mother, who is suffering from early onset Alzheimer's, and her mother is convinced that the ghost stories around the Cape are real. It is a queer modern gothic about mermaids. Could it be more for me? I'm so excited. That's the book that I picked for the Ace of Cups. The next card that I pulled is the Ace of Coins. This is the only story we've already seen before. This is Jack and the Beanstalk. We've talked about Jack and his shitty beanstalk before. A poor widow sends her son, Jack, to sell their only cow. He runs into a man who offers to give him 5 magic beans, and he sells the cow for the beans. He goes home, his mom's like, "You're an idiot. What the fuck, Jack?" Throws the beans out the window and sends him to bed without supper. The next day, we've got the beanstalk growing. Jack climbs up the beanstalk out of curiosity, I guess, finds a kingdom with a giant and his wife in a house or a castle, kind of depends on the version. Jack creeps in, the giant is out, the wife is home, he asks the wife for some food, she gives him some, the giant comes home and Jack hides because the giant doesn't like humans, I guess. The giant's like, they ate some dinner, they count their money for the day, they go to bed. Jack steals one of the bags of coins and gives it to his mother, runs away. So he repaid this beautiful woman's generosity by stealing from her. So like, no wonder her husband doesn't like humans all that much. When they run out of money, he goes and does the same thing again. He gets the wife to give him some food, waits for the giant to fall asleep, and steals from them. Instead of coins, they steal a hen that lays golden eggs. And then the third time they run out of money, Jack goes up and tries to steal a magical harp, but the harp cries for help and wakes up the giant. The giant chases Jack down the beanstalk, and Jack was like fast enough as like a little human boy that he was able to chop the beanstalk down while the giant was on it, and the giant fell and died, and Jack and his mother lived happily ever after. Jack sucks. I guess he gets like a fancy windfall by being an idiot and a cheat and a murderer. It's fine. It's fine. The Ace of Coins as a card. This card presents us with new beginnings, financial prosperity. There's the possibility of a new endeavor, and it's basically giving you like the green light to start whatever you want to start right now. Like, do the thing. My prompt, again, ace cards, it's a new author. For coins, we're looking for something tense or funny. And so I picked It Will Just Be Us by Joe Kaplan. So I discovered this, I started listening to Talking Scared, which is a podcast interviewing horror authors. This book was lauded as like the best haunted house story that the host had read in years. So obviously, it's a gothic haunted house story. Hello, I'm here for it. We are in a spooky, decaying mansion following Sam and her difficult pregnant sister, Elizabeth. They are dealing with ghosts, particularly a faceless boy who gets stronger and more twisted as the story goes on and as Elizabeth's due date gets closer and closer. Clearly, I'm itching for like a good, spooky time. It's gonna be a good time. I am excited to be spooked. That is the book that I picked for the Ace of Coins. The next card that I pulled is the Three of Coins. The figures represented here at the top are Banjhakri and Banjhakrini. This is a Tamang myth from Nepal. Banjhakri and Banjhakrini are shamanic deities. Are usually presented as a couple, but also possibly are different sides of the same being. They are specifically supernatural shamans of the forest. So Banjhakri, who is the male half, finds human children with the potential to be really, really powerful shamans and kidnaps them to his cave for training. It's not like malicious. He's regarded as like a very wise teacher of the forest, and the children have to train really hard in order to pass Banjhakrini's initiation. She is the female half of this being. If they do not pass the initiation, she does eat them. But yeah, not malicious at all. Honestly, it makes me think about Stranger Things and Elle being a kidnapped child and all the other kidnapped children. And like, it's not malicious because they're becoming powerful. That's like what I think of when I think of this story. But those children who do pass the trials are sent back out into the world, and the shamans that were trained by Banjhakri and Banjhakrini are way more powerful than those trained by like normal people. The card, the Three of Coins, is about teamwork and learning. So when it comes up in a spread, it's basically telling you to collaborate with others in your projects. This marks like the implementation phase of a project. So you're done planning and you get to start. So my prompt for 3 cards is a contemporary book. Coins, again, something tense or funny, and so what I'm picking is the perfect book for me prepping to go back to school, and it is Disorientation by Elaine Say Chow. We are following PhD student Ingrid Yang, who is trying very unsuccessfully to finish her dissertation. She accidentally stumbles upon a curious note in the archives, is basically convinced it will be what she needs to like finish her dissertation, but it turns into some kind of explosive discovery that upends her entire life. I don't know what that could be. Very intriguing. We've got friends and rivals and book burnings and hallucinations and confronting Ingrid's relationship to white men and white institutions. So what a fun time. This is a brand new book. I've been waiting for this to be available for like months from the library, so I'm super excited for this guy. That's the book that I picked for our lovely Three of Coins. The next card I pulled was Death. Strap in for this story. All these other ones have been like pretty basic. She is an a good old-fashioned fairy tale, and she is long. What is represented here is the White Bear King Valemon. This is a Norwegian fairy tale. So we've got a king with 3 daughters. The first 2, very mean, cruel, and the youngest girl is very beautiful, very pure of heart. One night, that youngest girl dreams of a golden wreath, and when she awakens, she says that she simply cannot live without this wreath and falls into a depression because she wants it so badly. The king tried to have smiths create something similar to the wreath for her, but nothing sated this girl's depression. One day when she was wandering in the forest, she saw a white bear playing with the exact same golden wreath that she had dreamed of, and she asked to purchase it from him. He said that she could only have it if he could marry her, because obviously that's how fairy tales function. And she said life simply isn't worth living without this golden wreath. She takes the wreath, they agree that he will come for her in 3 days. The king sends out his entire military to try and stop the bear from taking his daughter, but literally nothing could be done to the bear. He was unable to be harmed. So the king sent his eldest daughter with the bear instead. When they had traveled very far, the bear asked the girl, "Have you ever sat so softly? Have you ever seen so clearly?" And she said, "Yes, my mother's lap was softer, my father's courtyard clearer." And so he sent her back. This happened again. The king sends his middle daughter, and she says the same thing. So finally the king relents. He can't give up his entire military, gives the bear his youngest daughter. When the bear asked her the same questions, she said, "No, I have never sat so softly or seen so clearly," and he knew that she was the right one. So he took her to his castle, which was so vast and so fine that her father's was an ugly hovel in comparison. We love the hyperboles of fairy tales. They're so much fun. She lived really well here. It was just like a good time. She got to live her life. The bear was always away during the day, but at night he became human, and though she was never able to see him, they were with each other. Each year she bore a child for him, but the bear would immediately take the child away from her. After 3 years, she asked to return home to her family for a little bit. He said, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Just like, don't listen to your mom, only listen to your dad." So she has a good little visit, and her mom's like, "Here, babe, have a candle. You should be able to see your husband's face." And her dad's like,
"That's probably opening a can of worms. You probably shouldn't do that."
But she does it anyways because this is a fairy tale. She returned home and uses this candle to like look at his face in the light, and he's so handsome that she couldn't possibly look away, and the wax drips onto his face and wakes him up. Turns out he was under a troll hag's curse, and now that the girl had found out, he has to go on to an adventure and kill the troll hag. This story goes on for so long. She's following the white bear King Valemon. She goes on this whole adventure collecting some magical objects from some young girls she meets on her adventure. She gets some magical scissors, a never emptying bottle, and a tablecloth that provides as much food as she could want. Eventually, she finds King Valemon and discovered that he was to be wed to the troll hag. The hag saw her magical scissors, and the scissors like create beautiful silk clothing out of nothing. You just have to like snip them in the air, I guess. The hag really wanted to buy the scissors from her. As payment, she asked for a night with her love. The troll hag said, "Yeah, totally girl, whatever, but you have to wake him up yourself." Obviously, the troll hag gives King Valemon a sleeping potion so he wouldn't wake up. She's very sad. The next day, the girl offers up the magical bottle that never empties. Same terms, same thing happens, sleeping potion, doesn't get to see him. However, that night, one of the smiths who was working next door heard the girl crying, told Valemon that a woman had come for him. That night, not knowing of this, the girl offered to the troll hag the magical tablecloth, same terms, all that, but Valemon tricked the hag and pretended to take the potion so he could be awake for his love. They make a plan to stop the wedding. Valemon has the carpenters put a trap door in the bridge that the procession would parade across. I don't know how this happened without her finding out about it, but we'll just go with it. The wedding starts, the bride and her entourage go across the bridge, the trapdoor opens, they fall to their doom. King Valemon and our nameless princess rob them, take all of the riches back to their own palace. On their way back, they stop at each place where our princess had gotten her magical objects. The children who had given them to her, surprise, were her children, placed where they were to help her on this quest, as Valemon knew somehow that this would all come to pass. This is like a mix of the story of Tamlin and Beauty and the Beast. It's a very fun story. I really like this one. So let's talk about Death, the card. This is a positive card. Friends. I feel like in TV shows, people like pull the death card because it feels like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's talking about endings and change and transition. It symbolizes the beginning of a new period of your life, and it's about sudden and exciting change. It's not like the Tower that's like devastating. It's like good, beautiful, wonderful change that you've been waiting for. So the prompt that I have for the death card is my least read genre. This was according to Storygraph, and I went through, and my least read genre that I picked was crime. I don't like crime stories. I don't like crime thrillers. It's just like not my vibe. The book that I picked for this is Velvet Was the Night by, I literally wrote in my notes, my queen, Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Because if anyone can make me like a good crime story, it is this woman. We are in 1970s Mexico City following Secretary, I don't know how to say her name, Maite, Naite, who loves her romance books, loves staying in, and she lives next door to a beautiful art student, Leonora. Leonora disappears, and she finds herself searching for her at the same time as an eccentric criminal named Elvis is also looking for her, Leonora. He starts obsessing over Maite from a distance. So that's complicated. And we've got cops and hitmen and Russian spies all showing up to cause some chaos. I've been wanting to read this guy for a while, so it's gonna be a good time. That's the book that I picked for the death card. The next card that I pulled is the Knight of Coins. Lots of coins in this spread. The figure represented here is heitsi-eibib, who is a Khoikhoi deity of nature and animals. So heitsi-eibib's mother was a cow. Who ate some magical grass and then gave birth to a fully formed nature god. He is a shapeshifter and is very involved in animal evolution and conservation. Specifically, he would put animals into their proper habitats. So like he would take fish out of the desert, persuade lions to stop hanging out in trees, etc. Humans eventually became his favorite animal. So he gave them, or us, lots of freedom to like run wild all over the planet and like do our thing. He is also a folk hero, having defeated Gagorib, a demon who would use a large pit to trap and devour animals. Nowadays, he is believed to hang out around caves and graves and can be approached for good luck in hunting. The card, the Knight of Coins, symbolizes hard work, productivity, and routine. This knight is like the most hardworking and methodical knight of the deck. He may not be super creative, but he gets results. The prompt that I have for knight cards is a book published in the last 5 years, Coins Again, Tense or Funny. And so I am picking another horror for this because I'm in that mood. I picked House of Dust by Noah Broyles. I just discovered this book and it's about a true crime reporter and a prostitute who are hiding from their everyday lives on an abandoned plantation that is not as abandoned as they thought. That's the only blurb I'm getting. That's the only blurb you're getting. I'm so ready to read this. It's so up my alley. That is the card that I picked for the Knight of Coins. The last tarot card that I pulled before the Oracle deck is the World. What a wonderful card. This whole spread was so positive. The figures represented here are Hinemoa and Tutanekai. This is a Maori love story. Hinemoa was the daughter of a great chief at Ohata along the shores of Lake Rotorua. She was very beautiful, and because of her beauty and her rank, many men wanted to marry her. Tutanekai was one of those would-be suitors, but he knew that his rank wasn't high enough for Hinemoa's father to allow him to marry her. He basically hid his love from her instead, only seeing her at like really big meetings of the tribe, but he would often catch himself gazing at her, lost in her beauty from a distance, and sometimes he thought she might have returned his looks. Now Hinemoa also loved Tutanekai and also hid her love because she didn't think that he liked her. After a ridiculous amount of meetings where they're both like looking at each other from across the room, Tutanekai sent her a private message, slid into her DMs, asked, "Do we love alike?" Which is so cute. And basically asked her to leave her home and come and live with him. He said, "At night, when you hear the sound of a flute across the water, come across in your canoe." Every night he sat and played his flute, but Hinemoa did not come. Her father suspected her intention and pulled all the canoes high up onto the shore to prevent her from leaving. One day she just decided that she would just swim across this like huge lake. In the darkness, she could not see anything. She had to trust that he would continue playing his flute and the sound would guide her. She made it across. She did the thing. She did not drown. When she finally made it to the other side, she found a hot pool and went in to warm herself. At this time, Tutanekai happened to feel thirsty, asked his servant to fetch him some water. Hinemoa heard the servant and, pretending to be a man, asked who the water was for. When she heard that it was for Tutanekai, she asked for the water and then broke the gourd, the jug, on the ground, refusing to answer the servant's questions and refusing to reveal herself. So the servant returns. Tutanekai was like, "Where's my water?" The servants responded like, "Some guy in the pool broke it. Tutanekai asked him to go get water again. Same thing happened. Then he goes out himself asking who keeps breaking his goddamn pots. Hinemoa stayed very quiet, literally just letting him like feel around in the darkness until he eventually like found her hand and he was like, oh, who is this? She like straight up like full on revealed herself, full on walking naked out of the water like a mermaid, and Tutanekai wrapped his cloak around her, took her home, and they were man and wife as was their custom. The next morning the village awoke to the news, and though they could not believe that it had actually happened, they were all stuck with it. I think it's a fun story. The world is the final card in the major arcana. It marks completion. Something is coming full circle and you get to feel accomplished, that everything has come together. Reflect on your journey, celebrate, don't rush into the next thing, just like enjoy this moment. It's so cute. It's such a cute card. So the prompt that I have for the world is a book set in another country or from another country, something along those lines. And so the book that I picked is Kaikegi by Vaishnavi Patel. If you guys remember our discussion a few months ago about the Indian epic Ramayana, this book is the retelling of that queen's story from her perspective. Amazing. It was also pitched to me as like the Indian Circe. So we've got wild women discovering magic, becoming warriors. You guys know I love my wild murderous women, so yay, that's the book that I picked for the world card. Those were all of the tarot cards I had to show you, and now we get to do our Goddess Oracle deck card. I'm gonna let Past Bella shuffle her cards for a second. The goddess that I wound up pulling is Sophia, and she is the goddess of divine wisdom. This is the Gnostic goddess Sophia. And the Gnostics were like a mix of paganism and early Christianity. It's not a religion, it's like a way of living in the world. Sophia is literally the incarnation of the divine feminine and is the personification of divine wisdom. Her story is that she loves her father, she loves God so much that when she sees a brilliant light shining below her, she jumps into the darkness because she believes that it's her father, and then is trapped within the darkness. The powers of the underworld have their way with her, and she gives birth to a bunch of really shitty demigods, and particularly the demiurge, who becomes the creator of the earthly world, infecting it with basically our like 7 deadly sins. Sophia's still around though, she's still here, and she brings beauty and spiritual potential and creativity to the earthly realm and to humans, and she manages to break free from the darkness but refuses to abandon our sad world. That's literally what the story, like in quotes, was like, our sad world, and divided herself. So she kept one half of herself in the light in heaven and one half on earth to protect us and give us creativity and potential. In this deck, Sophia appears to show you how fate and destiny are guiding you. She's basically letting you know that opportunities are going to come up out of nowhere and to trust that you are divinely protected. So she's basically saying like, trust the process. So I obviously, again, don't have specific prompts for these cards, but the story of Sophia falling into like a darker and harsher world, as well as her relation to paganism and witchcraft, made me think of the Outlander books, where Claire falls back in time to the 1700s and falls in love with Jamie Fraser, but is also like a white witch healer kind of gal. And in the first book, she has to deal with like a witch trial for herself. I wanted to read the next one in that book anyways. So The Fiery Cross by Diana Gabaldon is the book I picked for Sophia. This is the 5th book in the series, and from what I understand, it's like the transition book to set up the upcoming American Revolution and how Claire and Jamie and all the other cast of characters are gonna get involved. This is my whole spread right here. Last week I put up a video, a little vlog, where I swapped out all of my social media and screen time for reading time. You should go and check out that video because I found one of my new favorite books of all time. And I also just launched a bullet journaling channel. So if you guys are vibing with that kind of content, I'll put the subscribe-y thing somewhere on the page if you want to go and check that out. I hope you all have a absolutely lovely rest of your day, and I will see you all very soon.